Peace, family. Hi, as always, I pray that the God of all blesses you with happiness, health, prosperity, and wealth. I was going over what's been happening in the last few days, and I've already put out a couple of videos, but this one here, I'm hoping that it will give a bigger picture from my perspective anyway. I watched how we all heard about what happened in Venezuela with the kidnapping of President Maduro. But before that happened, what I looked at was how, Russia, Putin was making very, big investments in cooperation with Venezuela, as well as President Xi of China. And what came to my mind was when the kidnapping happened, both of these other countries, China and Russia, supposedly was there to add protection to Venezuela and this president, right? And they even had brought in their warships, one here, a couple of here, all kind of military stuff. Putin supposed to had boots on the ground. And what came to my mind was, what we have here is three strong men, right? Three strong men, Putin, Xi, definitely strong men. And we have a wannabe, Trump, right? Who is acting out the part of a dictator, communist or whatever, okay? And, but then I look behind each one of these strongmen has their own personal agenda, and each one of them included in their agenda is the occupant, the occupy, what do you call it? To occupy other countries, right? Russia wants to occupy Ukraine. China wants to occupy Taiwan. Both of these smaller countries, Taiwan and Ukraine, has had America to kind of like put a wedge between them completely being taken over. And so when you have three strong guys, right? Three strong people or three strong sets, however you want to look at it, to eliminate the possibility of all-out war, you have to come to some kind of an agreement. And it's just my thoughts that it would make all the sense in the world that behind the scenes, forget about the optics of the media saying, showing how they are aggressive towards each other. That's the optics, right? But behind closed doors, on those telephone calls, that's just between the leaders, there's some type of agreement had to have been made. For America, for Trump and his people to be able to go in and snatch Maduro without much interference. And from what the round the world media says is like it was pretty timely. In other words, in a very quick fashion, So it looks to have some type of cooperation, And the cooperation had to come from Putin's people having to stand down, because with his so-called high-tech military and high-tech personnel, it should have been a whole lot more going on than just bombs being laid in Venezuela. It should have been some helicopters shot out the sky. It should have been some casualties on the American side. However, there was none. And if we are talking about Xi people also having some type of interaction with the Venezuela military and so-called protection and keeping a heads up to keep America at bay, something went wrong in the communication there. And on the stage like this right here, there's no such thing as coincidence. So not only did all three, I mean, when I say all three was shut down, Venezuela's army, nobody shot nothing out the sky. Putin's army, nobody did nothing. China's army, nobody did nothing, right? Somewhere in there, amongst the cooperation of these three strong men, there was a betrayal. And the betrayal had to come from someone wanting to seek Maduro's place. And I think we're seeing her on the news right now. I think she made some type of a gesture. I'm not talking about the vice president. There's a Machado or something like that, who said she wanted to share her Nobel Prize with Trump. I mean, this chick is already just like, you talk about, bedfellows. She done moved in and done got her pillow and her blanket and everything ready to get in with Trump. Wanting to share her Nobel Prize, something that's after the fact, something, I guess, to let him know I'm on your side. You know what I mean? So, on the one hand, I see that, this is, this cooperation between the three of them, these three strong men, can have an effect as far as putting off World War III, right? And all of this is done out of greed. That's another thing. And the greed is not just about money. Excuse me. For America, it is pure greed. Pure greed. And it's about oil. More than the 50 billion barrels. We want that 300 and something billion. They've swapped 50 million. That's what it is. But anyway, for Xi, China, it is about a strategic positioning with Taiwan, because that way they feel that they can control not just Taiwan, plus they want them to come back to under the umbrella of China, right? But it's also a strategic move on their hand. And the same thing with Putin. Putin wants to take over Ukraine because it puts him in a strategic location also, whereas it gives more power to the Russian Empire, right? However, it's like us, the American people, we will not benefit whatsoever. The only way we will be affected by this right here is more money coming out of our pockets to pay for things that probably used to cost half the price that we're paying today, and it's going to probably go up even some more. I really hope and pray that when voting time and the midterms come around, that people understand that it's not just Trump that is the problem. It is the entire Republican Party. And get me right when I say this right here. The Democrats ain't no damn angels either. But at least they put more on the table for us to benefit from. Yeah, they twist up our societies with all this crazy alphabet, this, that, and the other stuff that ain't got a damn thing to do with what we can put on our table and how we can pay our bills and how we can have our health care at a more reasonable cost. You know what I mean? At least they try and put something out there for us. Trump is just like, he wants to work us back as slave, and he don't give a damn if you're white or black and everything in between. They want to really put us to a point where is that we are doing so bad that we will be so glad to work for menial money to feed our families. We have to stop this here. We have to speak up, and we have to be more than just verbal. Keep your head up, and peace.